Hey guys, I welcome everyone to Sriram's IS, a channel partner of an academy. In this series, we will be covering some important discussion which is in news on daily basis. So we cover news from your regular recommended newspapers like Hindu, Indian Express, or any other government source like PIB. This session is presented to you by Anshum Verma, that is me. I'm a practicing advocate in High Court of Delhi, as well as I have a teaching experience of more than 10 years. I'm mentoring UPSC aspirants from last 10 years. So the topic for today's discussion is the recent amendments that has been taken by the government of India with respect to the clinical trials. With this amendment, India has removed any kind of animal testing or the test of drugs on animals. You can link this topic with your GS2 health as well as GS3 science and technology and the topics like biotechnology. So let us first see that why this topic is in news. So very recently, an amendment has been done to new drugs and clinical trial rules of 2023, where the aim and objective of the government is to stop the use of animals in research, especially in the drug testing areas. So we all know that all these drugs, vaccines, they go through different stages of trials. And in that stage, there is a stage where all these trials are conducted on the animals. So obviously, it is very immoral and unethical from the human point of view to carry out these tests on these animals. And then, sorry, and then there are scientific repercussions to this. So let us see all these angles in this video. So the first, we will understand that what are the regulatory mechanisms in India. So clinical trials in India are governed by Drugs Cosmetic Act of 1940, Medical Council Act of 1956, the Central Council for Indian Medicine Act of 1970. These three act governs all kind of clinical trials in India. And then what are the prerequisite permissions that are required to conduct any clinical trial in India? So let's say if you want to test a medicine, if you want to test a drug, or let's say a new technology, the clinical trial, there are some prerequisite conditions which are there for conducting these trials. First, you have to take a permission from the Drug Controller General of India, DCGI. Then you need a approval from respective ethics committee where this study is planned. Then there is a mandatory registration for your trial under Indian Council for Medical Research, which they have maintained a website, and in that website you have to register yourself. So first of all, before coming to the discussion, let us first understand that what is the clinical trial module in India. So like if you are preparing a vaccine, if you are manufacturing a vaccine, there are different stages. So it is a very long journey. There are different stages where all the permutation combination related to that drug slash medicine are tested. So to have a better understanding, let us first see the initial stages of the clinical trials. So the initial stages is governed by the discovery of the medicine, discovery of the technology, where in stage one, everything will be tried and tested in your laboratories. So the scientists, the doctors, they will work with that drug in the labs only. The second stage will come where in the second stage, the drug or that technology will be tested on the animals. So generally, your mouse, your primates like monkeys, chimpanzees, dogs, all these kind of animals are generally used for testing that drug or technology to have a better efficacy, to have a result. Then in the stage 3, which is the first human trial, generally in this stage 3, the trial is done on one single human, where the experiment or the research will be done on the body. So generally this individual is pre-informed. That means he know that there can be some negative repercussion of that drug on his body. Then in second phase, or let's say in the phase 1, like testing it on a single individual, it is phase 0. Phase 1 will include where you will study a small number of patients, like you will further expand your sample size. So in each of the stage 4, stage 5 and stage 6, what you will do, you will expand your sample size slowly and slowly. So let's say in stage 4 or phase 1 of human trial, you will study on a very small number of patients to evaluate the safety and dosing. Then you will study on more number of patients to have the access of the drug's effectiveness, and then you will evaluate the safety standards. And in the third phase of the study, where you will conduct that test, the efficacy of the drug on a very large sample size. So when it comes to India, in the first step only, we tend to test all the drugs on the animals. And particularly, we select two animal species. First, a rodent. Rodent, either it is a mouse or a rat. And then we also, you can say that the phase 2 of the animal testing, the same drug is tested on some canines like dog, or primates like the monkeys, rhesus monkey or chimpanzee. However, now the problem with this testing is, like, you have got a result from testing any drug on the animal. But the problem is, when you implement that test result on humans, that means if you conduct that test on humans, humans are not same as those of rodent or as those of the non-rodent. That means, is the body of human and animal are same? Sorry, answer is no. So the biological process in humans are different, their genetics are different, their diet are different, their age are different. So it gets very difficult to compare two test results, where on one end you are comparing a lab bred animal, and then you are comparing it and linking it with a human response to a drug. So this is the biggest issue in the clinical trial module in India. Then very quickly, let us understand that what are the limitations for the use of animal in drug testing. What are the issues related to the testing of these drugs on animals? The first limitation is limited predictability for human response. For example, animals may respond differently to a drug, whereas a human may respond in a different manner. Because we all know, is an animal and a human are having the same kind of cells or same kind of genetics? Like we have discussed this. So like this, there is an example. So for example, the drug known as thalidomide, it caused a severe birth defects in humans. However, there was no effect on animal tests. So it may lead to a larger tragic consequences. A drug which is working very successfully in animals can have a negative repercussions in humans. So we have an example for this drug. Then the second limitation is the ethical concerns and the animal welfare. So, for example, a country like India, where we even recognizes the life of animals. So the ethical dimensions related to a drug testing, like they are forced to they go through certain procedures which are very unethical and inhumane, like force feeding, injections, at times euthanasia, like they are given drugs with which they will be killed. So imagine the cruelty that we are causing on the animal. So for example, the DRICE test, which involves applying substances to animal eyes, has been criticized for causing severe pain and distress. So in this DRICE test, all these drugs are tested on their eyes, on their different organs. So they go through a severe kind of pain and distress, in going through these ethical dimensions, or these testing phase rather. So this is the second issue. The third issue is there is a very high failure rate in translating to human efficacy. Like this, I have already explained. For example, there is a study published in British Medical Journal which has found that almost 90% of the drugs tested on the animal, they fail to translate into a safe and effective treatments for humans. That means 90 out of 100 drugs which are successfully tested on animals, they fail. They are successful on animal, however they fail on humans. So what is the cost benefit ratio here? Then why the animal are forced to go through these tests? So this is the third limitation. Then the fourth limitation is inadequate representation of human diversity. For example, an animal used in testing may not accurately represent the diversity of human population. For example, a drug tested on one Indian hair and the same drug will perform very differently or in a human, or to any individual in Africa, because genetically a Indian is very different from a African. Like you must have heard some examples in the current affairs, like the cough syrups. The cough syrup which are used in India are not that effective for the people of African continent, and in some cases there have been reports where people have died consuming certain medicines. Okay, again the reasons could be very different, like whether those medicines were properly checked, regulated, etc., etc. But these are some instances that you can even quote in your answers. Like for example, I have added a case study here. A drug named Zymelagratin. It shows a promise in animal studies, but it has caused a severe liver damage in humans. So the thing is that we need to develop more accurate models to curb these limitations. Then the final limitation is regulatory and legal consideration. So the use of animals in testings are subject to regulatory requirements and ethical consideration. For example, each country has their own regulatory mechanisms. They have their own regulatory mechanism to deal with animal testing or deal with the clinical trials of the drugs. Like for example, India has its own provisions, statutory provisions and acts, which I have just explained in the starting of this video. For example, another example you can quote, European Union has recently implemented a ban on animal testing for cosmetics. That means even this cosmetic industry, animal goes through what will be the side effects of that cosmetics on the live cells. So imagine that this, like, cosmetics does not bring any revolutionary change in humans. It is just a mechanism where a human, the consumer good industry is driving out of the need to look good. But still, for this unnecessary reasons, animal has to go through the whatnot kind of different kind of pain and cruelty to test those cosmetics on them. So limitations in the field of regulatory and legal consideration. So guys, this article also talks about what alternative modes that we can use in order to counter this animal testing. So for example, there are now technologies which can use, like for example, this is the technology number 1. So we can use a three-dimensional cellular structure that can mimic the specific organs of the body. Like you can test the drug on a three-dimensional cellular structure in the lab itself. That means you can develop a cell scientifically in the lab that represents a cell of an organ, let's say a cell of a liver. Now we have these three-dimensional cell structure available. Like if you remember, during our school time in the NCRTs, even today, you have a two-dimensional cell structure. You remember that cell diagram? So we used to have a two-dimensional structure. However, with modern technology, we can easily replicate a 3D, a three-dimensional cellular structure. So performing your test on such cells will give more efficacy. Another popular technique is organ on a chip technique. Like in this, there will be a chip that will be developed, and that chip will be connected to the micro channels. Like it will be a mimic of how the blood will flow inside the body. The blood will flow through the charge, the electric charge between the veins. It is a kind of a charge that helps the blood to move. So these chips can represent those charge, and that it can represent the flow of the blood to different organs. So you can rather do your testing on these type of technologies where you are developing an organ on a chip. So this is the second technology or a second alternative that we can adopt. However, the issue with this type of technology is we need to expertise in biotechnology. Like it will require different experts from different field. Like you will be needing some doctors who are expert in those drugs. Then you will be needing some microbiologists, some nanotechnology experts, and all these people will club together their expertise to develop, to ensure that the chip does not interfere with the biological processes. So the fluid dynamics to mimic the blood flow inside the microchannel, the electronics to integrate the biosensors to measure pH, oxygen. That means just like your nerves are doing, the blood is flowing in the veins, the blood is carrying different minerals to different compounds and cells. The same thing can be implicated on a chip. So it is rather an interdisciplinary endeavor that needs a proper training and more capacity building so that we can develop these technologies. So this is technology number 2. Then there is one more technology that is very much in news, which can be, added as a third technology in order to tackle the clinical trials on animals. This technology is the inject bioprinters. So right now we have these technologies to print organs artificially in the labs. Like for example, now we, like if a human is suffering from a liver disease, we can easily print a liver using the stem cell technology with the help of these inkjet bioprinters. So what you can do, rather than using animals, we can create these artificial organs, and then we can you know, reshape the drug design development, and we can check our efficacy on such artificially developed organs. And if the test succeeds, it will have a more more implication, like it will have a more efficacy in order to represent, like uh, it will help you to draw a parallel research on a live human rather than going through the animal stage. So this is what the third technology that you can use as an alternative. Very quickly, guys, in this video we will see what are the different steps taken by different countries across the globe so that we can minimize the animal testing in the world. So in 2021, European Union has passed a resolution on an action plan to facilitate the transition towards technology that don't use animals in research, regulatory testing, and education. That means all the technologies that I have mentioned above, they will tend to, expand those technologies. Then US, like one more thing you can add here is banning animal testing for cosmetics. This is what we have just seen in the previous slide for cosmetics. This is something you can add. Then US has passed FDA Modernization Act 2.0 in December 2022, which allow the researchers to use these systems to test safety and efficacy of the new drugs. What all systems? Like what we have mentioned in this article. The first technology, that is the three-dimensional cellular technology. The second technology is the chip, the organ on a chip system, and the third technology is the 3D printing, 3D printing of the organs using bioprinters. In 2022, South Korea introduced a bill called Vitalization and Development, Dissemination and Use of Alternatives to minimize the animal testing. In June 23, Canada amended its Environmental Protection Act to replace and reduce and redefine the use of vertebrate animals in toxicity testing. And then in India, just 2 days back, or yesterday only, we have proposed this amendment to ban animal tests, and India becomes the first country, one of the first countries that has banned any kind of animal testing for the clinical trials. So what is the way forward, guys? The way forward is that we need to promote more non-animal methods so that we can avoid all the ethical dilemmas related with animal testing and animal cruelty. India faces a different kind of challenges to introduce all these technologies in India, but yeah, with better human resource, with better research and development, we can again move in this direction. So there is a need to bring in efforts so that we can develop some center of excellence, we can develop some end-to-end ecosystem where we can implement all these new technologies that we have discussed in this video. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion. So if you love these discussions, to give a like and share this video with your friends. And if you are planning to take a comprehensive UPSC coverage for your UPSC CSC 24, you can join Shriram IS using this code SRIRAMS. It will include all your holistic preparation for your prelims, mains, interview, optionals, essay, answer writing, mentorship. Everything is covered in this one package. So you can join us using this code. All the necessary details are mentioned in the description box of this video. So thank you very much. Do not forget to hit like on this video and share this with your friends in the UPSC fraternity. Thank you.